Welcome to AI Explains. We spend a lot of time grading things. We rate our Uber drivers, we review restaurants, and back in school, we got report cards that told us exactly how we were doing in math or history. But have you ever stopped to wonder, how do we grade a country?
It's a massive question.
Hmm.
And since 1996, there's actually been a massive project trying to answer it called the Worldwide Governance Indicators, or WGI.
The WGI.
Yeah, the WGI. It is basically a report card for the entire planet. It covers over 200 countries and territories.
And this isn't just one guy sitting in a room giving a thumbs up or thumbs down, right? We're talking about a data set that tries to measure the invisible stuff that makes a society function.
Exactly.
But unlike a math test, there is no simple answer key. So let's say I'm 12 years old. How do I understand the subjects on this report card?
Well, the WGI identifies 6 specific dimensions of governance. But rather than just rattling them off as a boring list, it really helps to think of them in 3 buckets. First, you have the political process.
Right, so this covers 2 big indicators, voice and accountability, and political stability.
Yes.
Essentially, do citizens have a say in who leads them? And is the government safe from being overthrown or facing violent attacks?
Exactly. It goes deeper than just asking if you can vote. It is really the participation grade.
Okay, so once the leaders are picked, you move to the second bucket, the machinery. This is where we look at government effectiveness and regulatory quality.
Right. This is the operational side.
Right.
It asks if the civil service is independent. Do public services actually work? Like, does the trash get picked up?
Does the trash get picked up? I love that. And for regulatory quality, does the government make it easy or hard for businesses to grow? Like, if I wanted to start a lemonade stand, is it bogged down in red tape?
That is a perfect way to look at it. So that bucket is the does stuff work grade. Finally, we have the third bucket, which is all about the rules of the game.
Often the hardest one to get right.
It is. It combines rule of law and control of corruption. Do people trust the police and the courts? Do people actually follow the rules?
And for control of corruption, are the leaders using public power to make themselves rich?
Right, and you have to remember, these are not separate boxes. Good laws usually help stop corruption. They are all connected.
So it's the fair play grade. Now, here is the tricky part. You can't just give a country a multiple choice test to measure corruption. How do they actually get these grades?
They use a statistical method called an unobserved components model.
Which sounds incredibly complicated.
It is, technically. But think of it simply as a signal extraction problem. Imagine you want to know if a new movie is actually good.
Okay, let's use the Rotten Tomatoes analogy. If I ask just my best friend, he might be biased because he loves explosions.
He loves explosions, exactly. But if you combine surveys from regular citizens, experts, NGOs, over 30 different sources in this case, you get a much clearer signal.
You filter out the noise of individual bias?
Yes. And this solves a huge problem mentioned in the research, the difference between de jure and de facto.
Which means what the laws say on paper versus reality, right?
Precisely. In almost every country, taking a bribe is illegal de jure. But if you ask the people living there, you find out they still have to pay them every day de facto to get things done.
So the WGI cares about what actually happens in reality, not just what the law books say?
It does, but we have to be really careful here. Because we are relying on perceptions and surveys, the data is inherently fuzzy. We call this the risk of false precision.
Meaning we shouldn't treat these scores like a precise measurement of height?
No. The WGI explicitly includes margins of error. Take the example from the research with Peru and Jamaica regarding corruption.
Right, one might rank slightly higher.
Yes, but their confidence intervals the range where the true score likely sits, they overlap. That means the difference is too small to say one is definitely better than the other.
So the takeaway for you listening is, don't obsess over who is number 45 versus number 48. Look for the big patterns.
Precisely. The WGI is a tool to see through the noise and understand how countries really function based on the experiences of the people living there.
It makes sense. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I noticed a detail in the methodology that blew my mind. The researchers mentioned that the world average for governance is fixed at 0 for every single year to make comparison easier.
It is a standard statistical practice, yes.
But think about the implication of that. If the global average never moves, does that mean the world as a whole can never technically improve on this scale? If every country on Earth got better at governing tomorrow, the average would still be 0.
That is a profound limitation. The scale shows us who is leading the pack, but it doesn't necessarily tell us if the pack itself is moving forward.
So are we actually getting better at governing, or are we just constantly grading on a curve?
Yeah.
That is something to chew on.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.